I don't know a lot of you guys. I can explain why. I have 4 degrees, and in the course of my education, I had 1 course in marketing, B-, and this was in business school where they actually called it a gentleman's B. So if you were just merely incompetent, you got a B, and I got a B-. No, I mean, seriously, it's like you almost have to just not show up and not try. And I really tried. I graduated from business school. I got to get the right number. I think I had a 3.93 GPA. Whatever that is, it's an A in every course except marketing, B-. And I did not finish first in my class because I got a B- in marketing. So you might think that I think marketing is completely worthless, and that's not true. What I think is it's something I will never comprehend. It just makes no sense to me at all. I know we need it. I don't know how to do it. So I'm not going to tell you guys how to do it. And there's a reason why many of you don't know me, because I do my very best not to interact with people who do marketing because it just exposes me for what I am. I'm a stock market analyst, which should not matter to any of you unless you own shares in a mutual fund or unless you have your money invested in a hedge fund, because if the mutual fund or hedge fund invests in anything that I'm supposedly an expert in, they talk to me. So I help them make better decisions about stocks. And in doing my job, I'm required to figure out what's going on in the industries that I cover, and one of the industries I cover is games. I don't have a prepared presentation, I don't have slides. And I guess I want to start by saying that I actually think games are going to be around forever. I think console packaged products are going to be around for a long, long, long time. And when they do go away, they're going to be replaced by console download products. And people are going to have that $60, soon to be $70 annual experience as long as there's somebody who has a vested interest in making sure that happens. That's all of your employers. So I think that David Cole said something that's wrong. He talked about, there could be a social bubble because all the games are copycat and there's no originality and players quickly tire. You could absolutely say that about first-person shooters. I mean, you could. They're all the same game. And you could say it about RPGs. They're all the same game, except they're not. And I wish I could explain to you why some people like Battlefield and some people like Call of Duty, why some people like Skyrim and some people like Mass Effect, but they're different, and they're just not the same game. And I would say that about Hidden Chronicles and Gardens of Time. So, I for one, and it's sad that there really are Zynga people here because I hate kissing up to people in the audience. I love Zynga games, and I get why they're doing well, because Zynga actually does a great job with their games. And even when they rip somebody off, they do a better job than the person they ripped off. So I disagree with David about this. So anyway, as we were preparing, a speech, as I was talking to Chris and Steve about what would be relevant to this audience, I came up with an analogy of games to a casino. And I think this is really the right way to think about it. And this will help you to understand why you're going to have jobs for as long as you choose to have jobs, why the industry you work in is going to be around. If you roll back 30 years ago, probably, if you went into Las Vegas, you go into a casino, and the casino catered to old, rich, white guys, and they played table games, and their wives, if they had a lot of money, played dollar slot machines. And that was all there was to do in Vegas. You could go downtown, and you could play poker. That's Binion's Horseshoe was the guys who used to host the World Series of Poker. But Vegas was very much catered to old white guys with a lot of money. And table games were created for old white guys with a lot of money, and the casinos made money. And somebody, I actually don't know if it was Steve Wynn or somebody else, got the idea, we should actually make Vegas a destination. And we should have shows, and we should have cheap rooms, and we should have great swimming pools and great restaurants, and let's get people to come here and stay. And they came upon the idea that we have to give these rich white guys' wives something to do, so they came up with penny slots. And again, I know I'm exaggerating for effect, but they came up with something that was still gambling, got you in the casino, And so penny slots were invented. And of course, if any of you have played penny slots, you can play 25 lines and 10 cents per coin. You can spend $2.50 per roll. But you can also spend a penny or 5 cents or whatever. And Vegas took off. And then poker got popular on TV, and all the casinos put a poker room in. And so if you go into a Vegas casino now, you go to Planet Hollywood or Caesars or Mirage, they all have a poker room, and it's kind of off in one corner. They all have tons of table games, and they have a whole buttload of slot machines. And all the casinos are doing better now than they were 30 years ago, by a lot, because there's something for everybody in there. So when you think about those three activities, poker room, table games, slots, what is poker? Well, poker is a complicated game. You cannot go in and play Texas Hold'em poker. You don't go in and play one hand. You don't go in without knowing how to play poker and sit down and say, tell me the rules. You have to figure it out. It's complicated. When you sit down and you play Texas Hold'em, you're looking around, and everything every player at the table does influences your decision. Everything. You watch it. If they scratch their nose, they might have a good hand. You want to see if they do that the next time, if they bet. And there's just a lot going on. And when you sit down to play Hold'em poker, you're going to be there for hours. You're planning on it. And I have to say, if any of you saw the movie Rounders, that is the story of my law school life. I was a professional poker player, for real, cross my heart. And I made about $250,000 a year for the 3 years of law school playing high stakes poker. I know I should have just kept doing it, but it didn't seem like a very honorable profession. I love poker, and unfortunately, my wife doesn't. So when we go to Vegas, I am not allowed to play poker because she will not sit there and watch me do it, and she doesn't want me to disappear for 6 hours at a time. So I hate going to Vegas with my wife because I can't play poker. But I go to every conference I can so I can go disappear the poker room. So that's poker. Then you have table games. Now, table games, they're kind of complicated. I mean, obviously there are some easy ones like roulette, just play and pick the numbers. But nobody walks up to play craps without knowing how to play. You just don't. If they do, pass line bet, and they sit there and watch for 3 hours because they still don't know why they're getting money or not getting money. But if you're playing craps, you've got to understand what all the bets are, what all the payoffs are, how to pull money off, put money on. It's complicated. Arguably, what other people do impacts you, but not really. I mean, they're rolling the dice. It's a random roll. So it's not like whatever they bet has anything to do with what you bet. You're not betting against them. So it's a single player experience, and it's complicated. You can play craps for a half an hour, 2 hours. You don't have to commit 6. Nobody goes in and plays one roll of craps. You invest some time, but it's not that hard. It's fun. There's stuff to do. People watch. My wife will watch me play craps. That's okay. I like craps too. Not as good at that as I am at poker. But you can actually go in there, play a couple hours, good experience, relatively complicated, not as tough as poker, pretty much a single player experience. And blackjack, same thing. You could play one hand of blackjack, but who does? Sit down, half an hour typically, hour. You plan some kind of a time commitment. No one sits down and plays blackjack who's never played before. Again, too complicated. They don't know what to do if they get 2 8s. What do you do? Or if they get an 8 and a 3. So again, single player, you could say the person in front of you takes your card, that influences, but not really. I mean, cards are random as well. And then you move over to slots. Let's say penny slots, because obviously they have $25 slots. If you play penny slots, you can be on the phone, smoking a joint, getting a lap dance while you're playing penny slots. And you don't even have to look at what happens because you're only risking a penny or a nickel or a dime, and you look up every 10 minutes and see if you have any money left. I mean, you can just keep hitting the bar. It's really mindless, right? You can get into it and you can change the number of lines and stuff. It takes absolutely zero education. There's no rules. Put the money in, pick some lines, and just, if it pays you, it pays you. It's not like, you're going to get 3 bars and you don't get paid. It's fine. So really easy. All right, so the analogy of the casino to games is that Texas Hold'em is like playing an MMO, exactly like playing an MMO. Nobody does it for 5 minutes, not even possible. You don't do it unless you know you can spend time. And when you play that MMO, you are into it. You're immersed into it. Everything everybody does impacts you, everything. And you actually do kind of build up like credibility in the game. You get skill, and it really does matter in that game, just like poker. And I'd say actually the analogy to Texas Hold'em poker, same kind of people do both. These are obsessive compulsive people who are pretty much people who never go outside. I mean, they just want to be inside and in a dark room with a hood over their head the whole time. Really a lot like poker. Then you have the table games, console games. And I'm going to leave handhelds out for a second, but that's console games. You cannot just start playing Call of Duty and figure it out. I mean, you know that you have a weapon and you shoot, but you're not sure. If you've never played a game before, you have no idea why this thing says you've got 16 meters to go with an arrow pointing that way. You've got to figure out where you're going and what the mission is and what the checkpoint is. And you tend not to play Call of Duty for a minute or 5 minutes. You're going to get in and you're going to at least get through the level. So you play 20 minutes to a half an hour, and most people play a couple hours at a time. And other than multiplayer, it doesn't really impact, other people don't really impact you. But the rules are relatively complicated. You get through the console game. And then you've got slots, which are just like casual and social games and mobile games. Really easy. Anybody can pick it up. You're not risking anything. Who cares? Doodle jump. You can figure out in about 2 seconds that you just got to keep jumping onto little things. And if you fall down, it's no big deal. You start again. Really mindless. And you know what? You can play those for a couple of minutes. No problem at all. So the reason I draw this analogy is that when Las Vegas was just table games, that really is like the games industry just being consoles. And everybody thought that was great. Vegas was profitable. It was a great place to go. And it was just for a certain type of gamer. It was for what we would call the hardcore gamer. Obviously, there are casual console games, but pretty much you didn't buy a console until the Wii came out. Nobody bought a console unless they bought it for a gamer in the household. Housewives did not buy a console to check their weight until the Wii figured out that was something they could sell. And Nintendo did change that. I may get that, but console games are really like Vegas 30 years ago. And MMOs came up in the 90s, got pretty big in the 90s and very big, obviously, with World of Warcraft. And that's about the same time Vegas started putting in poker rooms. Nobody ever said that the poker room was going to kill table games. Nobody ever suggested that. I mean, it wasn't a risk of that at all because largely they're different people. Now, I'm the guy who plays poker, and I also like to play craps. Most poker players like to play craps, but if you ask them, they'd rather play poker because that's what they do. MMO guys, they play console games, not as often as Call of Duty Online, Call of Duty Elite people, but they play them. They like both. And then they added slots, and it's like, that's a different audience. Very few Texas Hold'em players who play in tournaments play penny slots. They do when they're getting a lap dance, but other than that, they don't. So, but we do. I mean, I play penny slots when my wife is watching. I have to, because that's what she wants to do. So we'll sit and we'll kill time, we'll have a drink, and we goof around. But very few people do all three. They tend to skew toward slots, or they skew toward poker, or they're just dead center in the middle. And I think that's the same with games. So we have MMO players. I don't consider poker a growth industry in Vegas. There's a certain person who plays it. It's skewing younger and younger, but it's really somebody who's hardcore and really committed and has a lot of time. And I would say it really is like MMO. It's a limited audience, sizable, but limited and not growing that much. You've got table games. That's everybody, and that's okay. And that's the bread and butter for Vegas. And then you have slot machines, which even includes non-gamblers. Well, we have casual, social, mobile. That includes non-gamers. So when I think about the games industry, and I see this emergence of social games, and again, I actually think there are many differences, but social games are effectively casual games that are put in a social context, and they have great hooks to bring in other people, and there are reasons why you want more people to play. But the games in and of themselves started out as very, very casual experiences. I don't get why people say that's the end of the console, that everybody's going to play Facebook games, they're never going back to the console. It's not right, not even possible. Now, I carved out of this whole treatise handhelds, because unfortunately, handhelds just aren't that hardcore. I mean, there are handheld games that are truly hardcore. Kid Icarus will be hardcore. Zelda Ocarina of Time is absolutely a hardcore game. Pretty much Nintendo-made handheld games are pretty hardcore. There are games like Street Fighter that's a hardcore game, but again, far better on a console than it is on a handheld. But people who have handhelds are either the hardcore Mario nut or a kid under 12, and you know that. And Nintendo won't admit that. They'll point all the pictures in Japan of people riding the train playing their DS. Go on a train in the US, people don't play on a DS. I mean, you'll see them occasionally, but not very many. So the handhelds are under assault from cell phones, for sure, and from tablets. And as a parent, I know that we used to have 3 or 4 DSs in the house and 3 DSs and PSPs, and I get games free. I mean, I bring home games and my kids were all over them. And as soon as my kids got iPod Touch, DS got put in a drawer. They didn't care anymore. And I was okay with that, because it's like my daughter's 12-year-old twins, between them, in the last 3 years, have spent $17 on games, between them. And the one that they bought for $4.99 they thought was a ripoff, and I'm not going to name the publisher because they're in the room. They just could not believe that was $5. And one of them found something called free game of the day or free app of the day on iTunes, and she's downloaded literally 400 games since. But what a great deal. For $229 for an iPod, you never pay for software. What a phenomenal deal. And then the smartphone shows up, and this thing is 10x more powerful than a DS or a 3DS. I'm not getting the same game experience, but I can. And again, everything's free. This has just absolutely destroyed the casual market for consoles and for handhelds. So the carve out that I just made for iPods and smartphones and tablets that killed the handheld market, they also killed the casual Wii gamer. So that woman who bought Wii Fit, or that young person, 30-year-old who never played games before, who bought Guitar Hero, they're okay with Angry Birds on an iPad. It's good enough. So what I think we're seeing right now is the console market expanded probably beyond where it should have. We probably got bigger than we should have because Nintendo brought in their blue ocean, that ring beyond the core. They brought in all of these middle-aged people who had Wii Sports and Wii Fit and Guitar Hero, and they were done. And they really are done, and they've moved on. They're the guys who are buying tablets. I actually believe that the hardcore, I mean, you just look at Call of Duty numbers. The idea that Call of Duty went from 12 million to 16 million to 25 million units in 3 years, that's more people playing hardcore games, period. And if you had asked me, after Halo 3, how many first-person shooter games I thought the record would be 5 years out, I would have said 10 million. I mean, it's shocking to me that Call of Duty even sold 12, let alone 16 and 25. There aren't 25 million hardcore gamers out there, except there are. They bought Call of Duty. So, I actually believe this is marketing. I think Activision has turned that thing into a phenomenon as opposed to the game itself. But the point is that the market for hardcore games is bigger today than it's ever been. So that console market is bigger than ever on the hardcore side. Nintendo inflated the numbers with a bunch of great casual experiences that have been replaced by social games, smartphone games, tablet games. And I can tell you that the women that were playing Wii Fit are now playing Farmville, Cityville, Castleville. So I get that, but so what? That Wii Fit thing was a bubble. David Cole says social games is a bubble. He's wrong. Wii was a bubble. The Wii bubble has burst. The social bubble, I don't think is a bubble. I think that just like Vegas, if you go into Vegas and you check out casino floor plans and you see where they're expanding, they're adding slot machines. They're adding towers now when the economy sucks, because they're bringing in more people every year, and those people are not coming in to play poker or craps. They're coming in to eat and see shows and lay by the pool, and the decision maker, as anybody who's married knows, is the wife. So the wife now views Vegas as a vacation destination, and the husband can sneak off and play poker or craps. So I honestly think that social games have expanded the market for hardcore games because they've legitimized the gaming experience to moms. There is no mom alive who has played Farmville who would say, I don't let my kids play video games. They're not hypocritical enough to say that. So I look at this casino that is games and I say, it's probably more vibrant than it's ever been. And the problem that we have is the MPD group captures console game sales. We is dropping 30% a year. DS is dropping 30% a year. And the perception among most consumers is, oh, consoles are dying. Not at all. You've got guys like Dave Cole, I like David, who are saying, oh, this social thing is a bubble. No, it's not. The games are all the same. No, they're not. This is entertainment. People are finding on Facebook a reason to come back every day. I've got an 80-year-old, my wife's godmother, 80-year-old godmother. She friended me on Facebook, and so of course I said yes. And the next thing I knew, she invited me to play every Zynga game, and she's hardcore. I just was looking at email, and I got a Facebook flash. She sent me a gift in Cityville. I hate that game. But I go in every day because she asked me for shit, and I want to make sure she gets the stuff that she needs, because she's 80. How many friends could she have? So I do it. And I think that's wonderful. And this is a lady, I swear to God, I met her once. Okay, my wife's godmother. I've only met her once, and yet I interact with her every single day. So I heard Mark Pincus say, this is kind of the beauty of Zynga, that they bring people together. It is so true. And again, look at my friends list. I can't believe all the hardcore developers I know who play social games every single day. This is not a bubble. Now, I do play just about every single one. What I can say, and I can say this about Kabam and Kixeye, I can say this about every mobile developer, I can say this about every social developer. Games are getting better. And what you're really seeing is, because the opportunity is so large for the developers, people want to work on these games. And I encourage you guys, go play Castleville, go play Hidden Chronicles, and go compare them to any game that came before them. They're better. They're executed better. They change every day. That you're starting to see these guys put real RPG elements in Castleville, and it really is interesting and compelling. I don't think this is a bubble at all. I think this continues to grow. I'm not sure that it's going to grow in lockstep with Facebook, but I think the opportunity is huge. And if you look at Zynga's numbers, and Zynga's a good proxy for the health of the social games industry, they're 2/3, 1/3 US, so 2/3 US, 1/3 every place else. There is no reason that Zynga shouldn't be 50-50 if you just add in Canada, Australia, and Western Europe. I mean, that population is bigger than the US, just as connected as the US, and just as much on Facebook as the US. So it really doesn't take a lot other than localization, because culturally, Castleville works in Europe. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Words with Friends works in Europe. So I think you're going to see Zynga alone go, right now, if you do the math on their users, they have 100 million US users and 50 million international. They're going to go to 200 million users just because they will. And I actually think when Facebook goes public, you're going to see, they started doing this last week, Facebook's going to give you a reason to put a credit card down. So what they did last week was they said, if you buy $1 of Facebook credits, we'll give you $5. If you spend $1, you get $5 of credits. The only hook was you can't do it unless you give them your credit card. But once you do it, you have $5 in an account, you're going to go spend it, and it's one click. So you get that stupid tomato in Farmville that you need to feed the cow or whatever you got to do. It's 10 cents. If you haven't put a credit card down, you're not going to buy it. But if you have $5 in your account, it's just like Amazon. If you have money in your account, one click, done. If you have a credit card down, one click. So my view is games are here to stay. Each category is going to grow at a different rate. I do think the console industry is pretty mature, but I don't think it's going to go down meaningfully, because I think there are more people playing. I think this army of mothers that are playing social and casual and cell phone games, and fathers, are people who have never played games before, who suddenly recognize there's value to this, I enjoy it, it's entertainment, it's harmless, it's clean. And they're the ones who are buying their kids the next generation console, and they're saying, go at it, it's fun, and it's okay. So I think we're in a vibrant industry. I think it is much like a casino. And my only criticism of how the industry is running right now, and this is something in Steve's presentation, is free to play is free. That's a mistake. Free to play should not be free. Now I know people say, but you've got to bring in as many players as possible, and the Asian model absolutely is that. In the Western cultures, we get no entertainment for free. Nothing is free. You cannot listen to music for free. You cannot see a movie for free. You cannot watch television for free. It's ad supported if you're not paying for the content itself. And if any of you have played Words with Friends on Facebook, it's ad supported. So I see Zynga doing it, but I don't know why they don't do it with Farmville. I don't get why if I load up Farmville, I don't have to watch a 10-second ad. And I think that's coming. If the publishers and developers can figure out a way to monetize the 98% of the people who don't pay, this is a great industry to work in. And if we can figure out how to monetize those people, you guys are even more important. Because then saying get us more users and we'll figure out how to monetize, that's not good enough. Say get us more users, this is like more viewers on a TV show. Guess what? That matters, that's big business, because that means ad rates go up. I actually think that's where this is going. Obviously, there are obstacles. You could say anybody who spent $1 in credits this quarter doesn't have to sit through ads. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to keep the whales happy. But I gotta say, if you don't pay money on Facebook games, who cares if they make you sit through a 10-second ad when you load up the game? And again, 19 million people on Facebook playing Words with Friends. I've never heard one person say, I hate that game because they make me watch a 10-second ad every time I have it turned. Nobody says it. And yet, everybody I've talked to who plays it knows that they sit through an ad. You also sit through ads if you go to NBC.com or CNBC.com or Hulu. We get it. If you listen to commercial radio, we get it. So, I think since we all expect to watch ads, you should do that. So in conclusion, and have I used up my, I have. In conclusion, I'm happy to take questions. I think that this industry has never, ever before had as many people playing its products, ever. And I'd say that in the aggregate, those people are playing more hours than ever at any point in history. So we have more people playing more hours than ever. That sounds like a really high-class problem we have. Not monetizing it right, we'll figure that out. But if the guys who are running the businesses can figure out how to monetize, you guys are the most important people in the room. I honestly have no freaking clue what you do, but I know that whatever you do, it gets more people to do it. So thank you for indulging me, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Hey, Michael, I love your analogy of the casino, and you talk a lot about how you have the console gamer who's here to stay and the social gamer and the difference between them, and how a lot of in the casino model there's not a lot of crossover. I think some people think that that's one place where there may be a crossover for gaming is some of the console gamers, some of the more hardcore kind of moving into more of a social space. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do, and I have to be critical of Electronic Arts strategy, and we'll see, because they literally have had one success in social gaming, which is SimSocial. They'll say Bejeweled, they bought PopCap, but they've had one success. EA has a view that branded entertainment is what's going to get people to play, and the brand is powerful. I get that. The Sims brand is very powerful. Plants vs. Zombies is very powerful. SimCity, very powerful. I think that gets in the way of actually making money. So the most recent earnings release, they delayed whatever unnamed social game they had planned for this March quarter, and they're pushing it out a few months because, according to Peter Moore, it wasn't polished enough. It would hurt our brand to release a game that wasn't good. I have to say, that hasn't stopped Zynga at all. And in fairness, Zynga games sometimes are crap when they launch, but they're better the next day and better the next day. And as long as Zynga is 3 or 4 levels ahead of the highest common denominator, they're fine, and they are. I just established I am the highest common denominator in Castleville, and they're keeping me engaged, and the game is changing every day. So I think that the branded strategy is really powerful to bring people in, but I think the secret sauce to making money in social games is exploit your installed base. So what Zynga does is when they launch Hidden Chronicles, they put a little icon up in every other game, in Castleville and Farmville and Cityville. Click through. I saw along my neighbors list, you have all the Facebook pictures of all your friends. Jillian from Hidden Chronicles showed up as one of my neighbors. And the first time I saw this, I think it was Empires and Allies or something, I clicked on it, it launched the game, and I suddenly had the app. But they're very smart about marketing to their installed base. EA had a massive installed base for Sim Social, which has gotten cut in half, which is normal aging, it has. And they are letting that wither away while they fuck around trying to make the next game better. And they're going to make it better, and nobody's going to be there when they launch it. I think that's really dumb. So I'm all for the branded strategy if you strike when the iron's hot. I think it gets in the way of making a good business decision. I think it got in the way for EA. We'll see. And again, of branded games, I think EA is the only one that's done one. I cannot name another social game that's branded. They're all new IP, and I don't think most people care. We Fit was new IP. I don't think anybody cared. Guitar Hero was new IP. Nobody cared. So again, Sims is big. Aaron Loeb, who works at Playfish, I was talking to Aaron Loeb about how much I hated the Sim Social, and he asked me why. And I said, because I was trying to build a bookshelf early in the game, and I needed 20 muses, whatever the hell a muse is, but I had to practice guitar and compose on my PC, and I get these muses, and I needed 20. So the first day I ran out of energy, I had 12. So I come back the next day, and I ran out of energy, I had 18. I come back the next day, I'm ready to go, and I had 11. And I said, I don't know what happened to them. And he goes, oh, well, your muses die off after 3 days. Don't you play The Sims? And I go, no, I don't. Only about 10 million people in the universe have ever played The Sims, and you have 50 million people on Sim Social. So 40 million of the 50 million do not know the rules of The Sims, and you didn't educate me. And it pissed me off when I lost my stuff. It really made me mad. I didn't want to play again. So these are the kind of growing pains that I think Zynga has gone through 100 times, and I think EA needs to go through, and I think they'll figure it out. But that branded product, I might play The Sims Social because I've heard of The Sims, but you better educate me. So I think it actually is a double-edged sword. I think it will attract people, but it will lose people if they don't know how to do it. That was a long answer, sorry. Hi, Steve.
Michael, you mentioned that the consoles are going to keep going in your view, and there's new consoles in the wings. The Wii U has been announced, others unannounced. But the thing that hasn't been mentioned is pricing. Do you think that's an important part of the equation? And there's rumors that Microsoft might charge $600 for a new console. Could it really succeed at that kind of a price point?
Since Microsoft hasn't settled on specs, I think that's probably premature. I think Nintendo's in disarray, and I think the idea that we don't know the price point yet, but we do know what the console is just sad. I think they've completely blown that. And it's going to launch at $249 because it has to. I think they're dead if they launch at $259. I mean, I think they're toast. And I think they're toast anyway, because I think that the Xbox 360 will be priced below that with Kinect by the time they launch, so problem. I think I'm a little worried about the next generation because I actually think we are kind of to the point where people don't care anymore. And I'd say that look at television displays, we're at 1080p already, and which now the CES jargon is the next thing is 2K and then 4K. That's 2K. The next thing is 4K and then 8K. So 1080p is 2 megapixel. I don't know why they call it K, but no one's buying a 4 megapixel TV or an 8 megapixel TV in the next 10 years. I mean, they're $15,000. So we all have 1080p. All the consoles now run at 1080p. So what are we going to get? 60 frames a second standard and 120 frames a second occasionally? Who cares? Have you played NBA 2K? It looks like a frickin' movie. I mean, the facial animation isn't great. The game looks like a movie. It doesn't get any better than that. So I'm actually worried about them in general. So the answer to your question is, price I think is everything because I don't think features matter that much. And I think what you're going to see on these next-gen consoles is a 4 gigabyte hard drive, except for Nintendo, which would be no hard drive, and maybe some type of built-in cell access or something, some way to connect to the television without wires. I mean, there'll be like little features, but As far as gameplay, you're just talking about faster frame rates, and I'm not even sure the publishers want to invest the money. So we're in a really interesting time, and I think that the manufacturers better figure it out and better let consumers know, because what you don't want is people to wait, wait for something that's not coming. I mean, I think they just kind of have to tell us. If Microsoft launches a $600 console, it's over. Nobody's going to buy it.
Cool.
Good enough?
You guys good?
Thank you.
Sweet.